Okay, let's start with your name and let's talk about some of your background.
Okay, my name is William Shannon McLaurine II. I have degrees in civil engineering and mechanical engineering. I hold a professional engineering license in California. Um, I guess that's my basic background. Anything in particular you'd like to know?
Yeah, are there any like projects that are relevant to the work you'd be doing for OSC that you could talk about?
Let's see. Other than general construction and design of buildings, my background is structures. So other than that, there's no particular projects that I could say this is something that I've worked on that would be close to it, other than general construction and that sort of thing.
What role have you played in the design of buildings? Can you talk about
Uh,
that in depth?
okay, in general, my background is wood, a cross between wood design, concrete, and steel. Um, for most of the projects I worked on were small projects like houses or apartment complexes, in which I was basically the person in charge of the design. I would coordinate with the clients. I would not the architectural design, but the structural design, with architects, other disciplines, to make sure that everything worked out and was integrated. Basically, I was responsible for myself, and I worked under the supervision of other engineers and other people. But the project was mine. So as far as project management goes, that would be, I guess, what you guys are looking for. Um, I worked on concrete structures, elevated concrete structures, like an elevated school with parking underneath.
Yeah.
I worked on a couple other commercial buildings. And I guess the most interesting one was an MRI building where you had to screen the entire room and underneath the slab of metal to protect for the magnets. So I like big things. I like building things.
Yeah. So does that segue into your interest in OSC? Like, how did you find out about OSC, and what's your specific interest in the organization?
I've been following OSC for about 2 years, and my particular interest is obviously it's fun to see all the engineering, but I like the idea of freedom, the ability to have access to the tools to build a better world for yourself, and that's what about OSC speaks to me. I want to be able to have access to all those technologies that you guys want to develop, so that I can build a better place for myself. I want my own farm one day. My family has land that I would like to develop, and that's kind of my interest. But it's just fun to watch too.
Where's your family's land?
Alabama,
Alabama.
Montgomery, and Union Springs,
Okay.
Alabama.
So are you interested in coming to Factory Farm?
Oh, absolutely. The particular projects you guys are working on, I imagine I would have to come there in order to be able to work on them. So that's kind of what my whole focus was about. But uh, a lot of what I want to do, and you want to do too, I don't think the technology quite exists. I know you guys are working on your Scrum technology for distributed design, but I don't think it's quite ready. I think you guys need some more interconnections, a little bit better handoff of information, and that's something else I'm interested in working with. Basically, helping to develop a project software kind of package.
Can you talk more about that?
Sure. I guess it would be best to use maybe an example or two from your own XM platform, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, the I looked at your XM platform, and the concept is you hand off what needs to be done into kind of a pile, and then someone comes along and picks it up, so it doesn't have to necessarily be organized who's doing the work. And that does work for some things, but a good example would be, say, the gearbox you wanted to design for Lifetrack. In that particular case, that's a very large project, but it's a very simple statement. Design a gearbox. What are the inputs? What are the space requirements? Who's going to manufacture it? That's kind of too big for one person to do. And as a result, I think you need a better way to communicate what the project goals are about that particular step. And I think the best way to do that is with something like Buddy Press, or a way to communicate between your own members, so you can make sure you're following a process.
Okay, I just want to. Will you restate the name of that platform you're talking about? Buddy Press? Or
Buddy
Buddy?
Press, it's a WordPress plugin. It's You want to see a really good example of it being used. There's a website called gameful.org, Gameful. It's a really good example of something I would like to see implemented with with Factory Farm, that right now your team culturing is based around the wiki, where you come and you list things about yourself. That's not automated. It's not structured like a database. BuddyPress creates kind of a private social network, like your own private Facebook page, that would give the people at Factory Farm access to the back end. So you have a series of databases where you can do searches on people's status. So if I wanted
Okay.
to help this week, I could adjust my BuddyPress page, and then that would go into a database, and everybody would know that it'd be available for a specific project. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's a
Cool.
very powerful platform.
All right, that's great. Um, okay, we kind of already touched on this, but not just for the OSE platform, the extreme manufacturing platform, but for OSE as a whole, what do you think our priorities should be at this point?
Um, well, I know you guys have looked at a lot of different directions. Let me start with what I think is the most critical piece that's not being addressed, and that's the absence of a good open source CAD program. If you're going to have your flash mob design and you're going to have a distributed design process, not being able to communicate in the same language is a real problem. And one of the big issues I think you're also missing in the CAD CAM thing is there are really two types of CAD. There's what I would call mechanical engineering CAD, which is about three-dimensional structures, and then there's more of a drafting CAD. And that's what fabricators use. The reason fabricators use is because when you get into the complicated three-dimensional models and you use those as your construction documents, you tend to miss things sometimes. Fabricators need to be able to see paper in front of them and not miss things. So there are really two types of CAD that need to be developed, and I think you guys need to develop your own specification and then ask someone to develop it, help you develop it. That's probably the most critical piece that I don't think you're addressing properly. Other than that, obviously you need people with more technical background. I would like to see things like working more with university senior design projects to get more people, more technical people involved in a something that's less focused necessarily on factory farms, so you can open up who you have access to. But in general, I think being able to take the existing people you have and, like using BuddyPress or other online things, organize them so that you can get work done collectively. A lot of other things, but those are the big areas I think you need to address.
Okay, so when you come to factory farm, what role do you see yourself playing? Would you be a project manager
Well,
or volunteer?
I would like I'm interested in the Scrum Master positions and the
Mm-hmm.
product owner positions particularly. The what I would really like is the product owner position so I can help coordinate. And that obviously has some recruiting to do with getting the right people in there. But it has more to do with basically having construction documents in such a way that people can understand them, have calculation packages. Because right now, a lot of what you're doing is making the product, but I don't see a lot of really good documentation. And that process, I think, needs to be addressed, something that I could do. Um, uh,
Can you hold on one second?
sure.
Okay, on that point, have you seen our fully released beta release documentation for the four machines?
The DVD, the open source package there. No, I was looking at the wiki. Is that where your calculations are and all your other things?
The DVD has the most up-to-date documentation. I was interested in some more detailed feedback on what you would do to make those better, if the
Well,
documentation isn't up to spec yet.
another, I guess, hole in what I see you guys doing is you seem to feel like that there's an achievable platform where you could almost stop and say, this is the design, it's good enough. Let me use an example. You guys are asking for a bakery oven. I think that really needs to be a kiln to fire ceramics that can also be used for bakery oven, so that you get access to the ceramics product line. But let's say we're going to design that to begin with to run off some type of natural gas or propane or something along those lines. That's one stage. The next stage is then to take it into using the gasification burner to run the kiln, or solar to run the kiln. Each person who uses your package is going to have different needs and different resources. And so the construction documentation you need is going to have to be above and beyond what is normal. You're going to need, this is what we made, this is safe, here's the calculations to show what loads we think it can take. But in addition, here's an alternate design methodology. That's kind of what I think that needs to be developed.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a long-term strategy is to coordinate like global feedback on really harnessing everyone's ideas for innovation. That's going to come from our we have a what's called like a replicators network survey that kind of goes in and gathers data right now from people who've already started building the machines independently. But
Right.
we're definitely going to need that's going to be a huge program to really harness people's feedback on a global scale about how to make it better and how to apply it to different scenarios. So, do you see yourself playing a role in the development of that?
Yes, because I think it's a little simpler than you're making it out. Because what you're talking about is maybe customer side requests, or these are the features we like. What I'm talking about
That's
is
not
you
what
need
I
to be able
meant.
to organize your package in such a way that your calculations interlock. And
Uh huh.
what I imagine it would be like, imagine a matrix where each idea, say the part about the burner is the basic oven has a series of parameters in it and calculations. So it's of a certain size, it has a certain airflow, it has a certain gas flow, it has a temperature range. And then another connection, another set of things is the gasification burner or the solar thing. And these particular modules, which are almost kind of an object-oriented type of structure, interlock.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be done on a website so that it's a standard back-end database that I think can be implemented pretty easily. This will be part of your original design process so that all along the design process, everybody can contribute to an individual part in a very specific way. So that it's not, oh, I've got this whole long idea, and when I get done, I'm gonna show you what I did. You break it down and say, here's my idea, I've documented it, here's my calculations, and here's how it intersects with another part. I think that's essential before you even get to the finished part of saying, here's the product, here's how we document it. It should be part of the process so that the process itself is ongoing as part of your program.
So you're talking about modularity.
Yes, yes, and I think it's doable in a fairly simple way with some PHP scripting inside, say, the BuddyPress environment. So you can have an environment where you have people who can add and subtract and say, this is my idea and this is how it plugs in. That way you can play with ideas and see, is there a better pathway without somebody having to invent the entire process themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we talk more about your project management experience. Have you used Scrum in the past?
Um, no, I have not. Most of the project management I've been involved with is top-down hierarchy kind of thing, where you assign a responsibility or someone takes care of it because they're expected to. In a distributed model, you're not going to have that same type of authoritative structure. So I don't really have background with Scrum, but I am familiar with the concepts.
Okay. Those are the main questions I wanted to ask. I'm just looking through a couple more to see.
Sure.
Um, mhm. Okay. I think that's going to be the scope of it at this point.
Okay.
The process is Martin's going to take a look at this, and then it's pretty clear you want to be a product owner. So we're also calling yeah product director. I think is the title we settled upon.
Okay.
So Martian's going to take a look at this, and then he'll get back to you. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
did you have any other questions?
No. Do you have any final thoughts?
Um, no, it's a very complicated process. I guess I'm not used to video. Writing would be better, but that's okay. If you have any other questions, you can email me.
You feel like you have some things that are maybe more technical than you were able to convey in the video? You'd rather write
Um,
it out or
Possibly. At this point, we're talking about strategies, and that's another issue that I tried to address in the cover letter I sent you guys, talking about how the model you're using attracts people who understand what they're doing, and they don't know. There's not a very good technical handoff of very specific things. Like there were three different sets of questions about what I should send in my interview and the letter. They weren't all the same questions. Everybody understood what you were doing, but nobody really kind of knows and has locked it down. And I guess that's kind of what I would like to be able to help bring to you is this technical handoff where you can say, this is specifically what we have to do. Because getting together to wish, that, we want this thing to happen, it works for bringing in resources, it brings in people. And if those people can solve your problems, you're okay. But I think we're at the point now to move to the next step. We have to start working as a system instead of individual people.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. It was just
Okay?
we're expanding and we're expanding in every direction at once, so we don't always have the personnel to do that. But I mean, that would be a great thing for you to do is, fill in some of those holes for sure.
Some of the ones that I know you guys have addressed it with a heat exchanger, but I really think you guys need to focus on some type of refrigeration as being an important fundamental aspect of one of the first things you do. And another thing that just seems to be totally missing, besides ceramics, is plumbing. I don't really see a good way for you guys to come up with repeatable pipe to do a lot of the construction you're talking about doing.
Okay.
But anyway, like I say, broad background, mechanical and civil.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say, or we good?
I don't think so. I think if you have any questions or specifics, just let me know and I can do whatever I can to answer them.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.